Hello and welcome. It is now time for another viewer request. One viewer called Ricardo asked me if I could do a deep dive on the new Retrowave. Of course, I accepted the challenge. One small problem, I did not know what new Retrowave was. However, a quick search on the internet showed me that new Retrowave is actually the same as Synthwave. And Synthwave, I know what it is. So now it is time to deep dive into new Retrowave, or Synthwave as it is also called. Let's go! So, what is then Synthwave or new Retrowave or Outrun as it is also called? First, we should take this test. If you look at these three pictures and you think that yes, this is when pop culture peaked, then it is highly likely that you like Synthwave. Synthwave is basically a quite modern genre that started in like the mid-2000s, where artists tried to recreate the sound of movie and TV soundtracks from the 80s. And as an artist in this genre, you typically also used other aesthetics from the 80s. And inspiration was taken from like 80s sci-fi, but also a bit from 80s synth-pop, as well as some sounds from 80s video games. I think before the genre even started, some modern inspiration came also from electro music from the early 2000s, like for example from Daft Punk's Discovery or from other electro artists. Then the actual synthwave movement started in France, and some milestones is, for example, an album called 1986 that was released in 2007 by the artist Kavinsky. Then soon after that, in 2008, the artist called Collage released the EP Teenage Color, which became very popular. Then in 2011 it really kicked off as the movie Drive was released. And this movie went pretty well, but it also had a really good soundtrack, which featured a track called A Real Hero that was made by Collage and the Canadian synthwave duo Electric Youth. And this track, A Real Hero, also became very popular, and this became a big boost for the synthwave genre. Then another boost came in 2016 when the series Stranger Things was released on Netflix, which also featured a lot of synthwave music. And still today synthwave is gaining more and more popularity, and I would say it's especially popular in gaming culture. But now it is time for us to try and make some synthwave music of our own. But first we must choose our instruments. During the 80s, the Yamaha DX7 was almost the signature sound of the 80s. And therefore I will definitely include the Korg Volca FM, since this has roughly the same sound characteristics as the DX7. And I think I will use this to create a cool DX bass for my synthwave track. Then I definitely also want to have the Korg Volca Keys, and I will use this to create some kind of arpeggio pad that I can have, like to create a more high frequency sound layer on my synthwave track. So I will include that as well. For the lead synth, I'm gonna use the Korg Volca Bass. This synth is equipped with 3 oscillators, which I can run at the same time in unison mode. And by detuning the oscillators slightly from each other, I can create a really fat lead sound. More, I will need also some string sounds, some cool 80s string sounds. And the Volcas are not super great at string sounds. But let's see what I have. So we will add this to the game. This is a 1986 Roland Alpha Juno. And this unit has some amazing string sounds. And finally the drums. This is a bit tricky, so I have multiple options here. I have the Korg Volca Beats. Has kind of the sound of the Roland 808 drum machine, which is very 80s. Or I could go with the Volca sample, because you used a lot of sample drums also in the 80s. But I think I will go actually with the Volca Drum. So with this one I can use digital waveforms to create my own unique drum sounds. So I think I will go with this for the drums. Now it's just to connect everything here and we can start creating the music. So first I'm gonna create the drums on the Volca Drum. And in Synthwave, the drums are usually quite minimalistic. It's usually just a kick drum and a snare drum that plays just a beat like doom, cha, doom, cha. So I'm just gonna first create a kick drum. And I do that by selecting the very first parameter setting, which is a sinus. Then I just add a bit of pitch LFO. And I play around a bit with the pitch and the release to create the sound I want. Yeah, that's pretty nice. I think that's about what I'm looking for. And for the snare drum, I'm going to do that in 2 layers. So for the first layer, I'm going to use electric noise with a high pass filter. Just play around with the release. And then as the second layer, I will add a band pass electric noise. And I'm going to reduce the pitch on that a bit. And then play around with the release so I get the sound I want. Yeah, something like that. So let me program a patch here now. Like so. And snare. I have to make sure also that I have full drive on the snare. Let me see if I have that. Yes, drive is already to the max. Perfect, there we have the drums. Let's move on to the bass. And the bass I'm gonna do on the Volca FM. And I just choose this factory patch called Pluck Key, I think. And I just change the octave to -3 and then it sounds like this. I have 2 ideas of how I could build this bass line. Either I do like a gated 16 beat like this. Or I do a basic 8 beat like this. I think I've landed in that I will do an 8 beat. That seems to be quite common within Synthwave, so let's record that. Yes, that's a good groove to build on. Now we'll continue on to the Volca Keys. And for the Volca Keys, I want to create a kind of a broken chord pad. And I will play it in unison mode. And it sounds like this. And then to make the sound softer, I will turn down the cutoff and increase the attack. And then I will create a patch that sounds like this. Nice. And then I will add also the built-in reverb to make it more like a pad. Time to add some strings now on the Alpha Juno. And now finally the lead synth I will create here on the Volca Bass. And first I will just use the basic tone here. And I've added a slight touch of reverb as well, as you can hear. Then I switch to unison mode, playing all the oscillators at the same time. And what I do now is I detune the oscillators slightly from each other. create this fat lead sound. And then I connect via MIDI because I want to be able to play this from my keyboard. So I can play the melody here. Yes, this song just writes itself. Cool! Now I will just fix this cable mess here and then fix the volumes and everything. And then it is time to do the final track. This will be super exciting.
It's a sound I